Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And that I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you were playing fullback up there, and I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. If you could pick up, you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to fix it, and our running back coach didn't take the pass. Biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning. Welcome into the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9, 12:30 a.m. WTBC. It's a beautiful Monday morning. We're live, local, and ready to get rolling right here in your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9, 12:30 a.m. WTBC. Remember that this is a day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone. Be the difference you want to see in the world today. Good morning, X. How you doing, man?
Good morning. Doing well. How are you?
Doing well. We'll add Kennington Smith, the third, to the conversation here as we kick off the second quarter. But just some topics that we can talk about, and we'll talk about with him, especially since we didn't get to catch up with him last week. We'll get his thoughts on spring meetings down in Destin, if anything from that jumped out at him, and excuse me, and if he he has anything that he wants to specifically bring to the table regarding the spring meetings that we may not have seen, the top topics, etc. We'll also get his thoughts as we go around the Capstone. We'll look at the return of Mark Sears and what that Sears and Stevenson mean when you add to this roster. NATO seemed to be going all in on embracing the national championship. Is that good or bad? We may even do a nice comparison today or tomorrow and the next day or so regarding expectations from the Alabama fans. Are they higher for basketball or football? And we know what Vegas is saying in regards to that in a couple of their books. So we'll talk about that as well, and then definitely get his thoughts. We're not gonna go back deep into the duo conversation with Milroe and Bernard, but what's the stat line, X? We talked about whether we thought they would be considered top 4, but we really didn't talk stat line. And you had you have to jump off at the end of each day now for a little while. So the question becomes, you didn't hear my explanation about Milroe and what it means and why I think Milroe may absolutely go off, but I gave the audience 2 words: Burrows and Daniels. Fifth-year guys who absolutely went from average to world beaters and Heisman Trophy winners, and neither one of them were coming off of the type of season that Jalen had last year and came into the season with any other hype that Jalen has so far. Another guy that C.J. Watson threw in that conversation was, of course, Jalen Hurts, who did the same thing with Oklahoma. He didn't win the Heisman, but he went from bench starter to bench to runner-up in the Heisman by going to Oklahoma, where he was a graduate student. had an offensive-based coach versus defensive-based coach, and look what it did for him. So we'll get to all of those conversations, but I want to get your thoughts and get Justin's thoughts as well, and any of our listeners on a topic. I don't know how much Kennington would speak to this topic, but Deontay Wilder, unfortunately, losing fight with a TKO knockout. A knockout fight. Just your thoughts on Deontay's career, and should he hang it up or not? And I just want to salute him. It's amazing how he's beginning to be, dogged a little bit on social because of his last 5 fights. I think he's lost 4 of them. So, your thoughts, your comments on Deontay?
Man, I love everything Deontay Wilder has done for the sport of boxing. Of course, he's a Tuscaloosa native. I've had the opportunity to meet him, shake his hand, talk to him. I grew up playing football against his younger brother. Deontay is a local legend, but not just a local legend. He's a national legend in the sport. But man, I think it's time. I think it is time. He'll be 39 later this year. He was the world champ. He was the best of the best, and it's okay to hang it up before that legacy gets tarnished anymore.
Your thoughts, Justin?
Yeah, I kind of agree with X. I'm curious what this means. I know there was originally a planned fight against Anthony Joshua. I'm going to assume that is maybe not going to happen now after that loss. A tough way to go out in that fight. I believe he wasn't favored to win, but still an absolute legend in Alabama and Tuscaloosa, and like X said, nationwide. That's the one for the last several years. If you were going to take a right hand from somebody, you didn't want Deontay Wilder to be the one to do it. So I think it's a well-accomplished year if he does decide to hang it up. I hate to see him go out that way, though.
Yeah, and that's kind of the question is does he, the way he lost, does that make him come back, right? Because you don't want to go out that way, but do you drop down competition to fight, to go out as a winner, or do you walk away gracefully? And we've seen both versions of it. I don't know. I have no idea how all of boxing works. I'm really good friends with JD's, trainer, but I don't know where he goes and whatever. But I want to highlight, what he's done, who saw it coming. He got into boxing to be able to take care of his family. Had a daughter who was sick and had some medical issues, I should say. And I think he did enough to do that. And I hope that he has done that. Don't know anything to the contrary. I just want to just say that I know what drove him. And sometimes, man, when you lose that drive and that motivation, sometimes you can't put the same in. Who knows? But either way, 42 knockouts. I think I know it's 42 knockouts, and I think it's 47 career fights. A record something like 42-4-1. Nothing to be ashamed of. In world champ, Xavier, you said national. No. He was world champ, and that is that's what to remember is this dude was the world champion. the best in the world. I mean, and you know, that's what you um, have to make sure that you not forget. And I hope if he decides to come back, I hope he gets a win. Decides to walk away, I'm still gonna salute him and not jump on the bandwagon and start dogging him. He is you forget when you look at him physically, but he is a 38-year-old former champion of the world. So kudos for representing Tuscaloosa. The part that I hate, and you guys may not be fully aware of, is the fact that you know, he wanted the part I hate is that world championship fight never made it to Tuscaloosa because of the university decision and saying that they didn't want that element around here. And Justin, y'all may not even know about that. Your closing thoughts, X. That's the only thing I ever happened with Deontay's career.
The saddest part of it, but hey, he was world champ. He was an absolutely unbelievable boxer, and as Justin said, man, that was one right hand that you did not want to see coming at you full speed. So whatever he decides to do, congratulations to Deontay on an amazing career. If he wants to go out on top, hey, man, I'll be right there watching that last fight. If this was his last fight, I still appreciate everything he did for the sport of boxing and what he did for Tuscaloosa, putting Tuscaloosa on the map in another way outside of football.
Absolutely. Any closing thoughts from you, Justin?
X is, stealing all my words there, but I can.
I'm gonna have to come to you.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love that Tuscaloosa gets highlighted in a way outside of the university, and not that I don't like the university highlighting Tuscaloosa, but it was cool to see another athlete in another sport that isn't typically known around here get highlighted on the biggest stages. I mean, couple years ago, those Tyson Fury fights were. Everybody was watching those, and I thought it was awesome just to have Deontay get highlighted in that way, and the city of Tuscaloosa just a compliment. I'm just so proud overall of his career, even lose or not.
Hey, and we got another one, by the way. Just so y'all know, there's another boxer, a guy that I went to school with, Dion Nicholson, who's 20-1, and he's ranked number 6 in America right now.
Yeah, we'll have to jump on his bandwagon as he begins to grow in sport. Like I said, the only thing I hate is that the city of Tuscaloosa and the University of Alabama could not figure out how to get that world championship fight to Tuscaloosa, and we gave it to Birmingham. And it was, and I may be disbarred from the university for saying it, but it was about arrogance, and I think it was part of what you just said, Justin. It was something other than the university that was highlighting Tuscaloosa. Who knows? I don't know why, but I wish they had allowed that to happen. But it did. But he still represents his hometown and his community. And, of course, they've heard me say it many times. I remember the first time his mom told me, my baby's going into boxing. I knew her when she was a server at IHOP, and we used to go over there all the time. And I said, oh, that's great. With that kind of, yeah, that's nice. And then the next time, oh, he's trying out for the Olympics. I said, oh, that's cute. And then he won the bronze at the Olympics. And now he's professional, and now he's the world champ. So I wasn't as quick on the bandwagon, and I admit that up front. But I'm going out on the bandwagon. Kudos, thank you, world champion Deontay Wilder, for a great run. If it's over, we salute you. If you want to come back and try it again, we'll support you there as well. Roll Tide and go Deontay Wilder, the only man I know of outside of this university in Tuscaloosa have a statue of himself to memorialize his accomplishments, and we celebrate them today. Coming back on the other side, we'll add Kennington Smith III to the conversation.
Traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. If you're traveling north on Highway 69 from Old Greensboro Road to Skyland Boulevard, it's a 2-minute delay. Eastbound I-20 heading from Foster's to McFarland Boulevard, an 8-minute drive time. And crews are doing work on McWright's Ferry Road. It's being extended down to Rice Mine Road. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Lisa Baque.
Townsend Nissan is your #1 dealer, and they'll beat any written offer or pay you $1,000. Keeping you #1 keeps Townsend Nissan #1. See dealer for details.
This report is sponsored by Compassion International.
Every day, a child in poverty waits for a sponsor is another day of hopelessness. There are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Just text the word radio to 83393.
One nonstop party. Save a horse, ride a cowboy, big and rich. Featuring Gretchen Wilson.
You know I'm here for the party.
2024 Celebration Tour. One band, one show with Cowboy Troy and DJ Sinister. Saturday, July 6th, Pearl River Resort Silver Star Convention Center. On sale now at pearlriverresort.com.
To your city. Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
Gotta change my oil.
How about new Valvoline Restore and Protect? It restores and protects your engine to run like new.
Get in zone.
It restores your engine to like factory clean?
And protects.
Get in zone.
So Valvoline Restore and Protect restores and protects.
Now you can get 5 quarts with an STP extended life oil filter for $37.99.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
We could try to explain what it feels like to get your work done on a John Deere. The way a Z-Track mower finishes in half the time you thought it would. Or how much easier it is to move mountains of soil with the 1 Series tractor. We could even go into detail about how it feels to tow up to 4,000 pounds behind a Gator XUV. But if you really want to know what it's like to run with us, you just have to get in the seat. Learn more at johndeere.com/get-in-the-seat or visit a dealer near you.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Sky partially sunny today. The chance of a few scattered showers or storms this afternoon or this evening. The high today 89, the low tonight 69. Tomorrow a mix of sun and clouds with scattered showers and storms possible. The high 88. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 71 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Into Tide 100.9 for more of the Martin Houston Show with Martin Houston and X's and O's Sports, Xavier Houston.
Good morning. Back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier on Tide 100.9, 1230 a.m. WTBC. It's now time for us to add Kennington Smith III to the conversation. Good morning, Kennington. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are y'all?
Doing well, sir. Lots to get to, lots to catch up on in terms of the sporting world around the Capstone, and then a couple other specific things that you have. But let's start a little bit with just getting your thoughts and recap on Bama baseball and softball as both of their seasons came to an end. With baseball, I don't know if there's any disappointment there. With softball, there may be disappointment, maybe shouldn't be disappointment, but yet still there may be some disappointment. What's your thoughts? And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I don't think there's a disappointment in the fact that Alabama baseball is eliminated at a regional. I think the way and maybe the opponent was a little bit disappointing. Stetson is obviously a tournament team, but if you look at RPI and those type of things, it was probably a little bit of an upset. Losing and then getting shut out to end the season is disappointing. But I think holistically, you can't say much about the season itself. Making it to a regional in year one under Rob Vaughn is certainly an accomplishment. I think softball definitely overachieved from what the team looked like at the middle of the season, from being ninth in the SEC, the lowest ever in Murph's career, to making it to the College World Series is a pretty phenomenal accomplishment. I thought he made a very strong point when he said that this was a team that kind of squeezed everything that it possibly could have out of this season and made it as far as they did is a really big accomplishment. So I think there's probably some slight disappointment in the fact that their seasons came to an end. But when you look at what both teams accomplished holistically, I will call those two very successful seasons.
Yeah, and let me ask you this, and this is the analyst and the reporter and the question me. Yes, I do think this team probably squeezed every bit of juice out of it from a player standpoint. Can you explain to me the decision, the coaching decision to the young lady transfer from LSU in that moment versus going back to Beavers? The young lady had not pitched since the last SEC game.
Yeah,
Series, not SEC game.
Yeah, I cannot explain that. I think it's kind of one of those situations where you would expect the coach to ride out with the player that has kind of gotten them there. Does that make sense? Like, we're gonna go.
Absolutely.
It's like,
do you give me the shot, or do you give Michael Jordan the name?
Right. It's like if we're going down, we're going down with our ace. And it's unfortunate that it didn't go that way. So on that note, I cannot explain that. So they did squeeze everything out of it, but that doesn't mean that they're without Murph is without criticism, or questions couldn't be asked. That one no, I can't explain.
X, did you see the game?
I didn't get to see it, but I was keeping track of it, and yeah, that was a little shocking with the pitching change.
Yeah, pitch, and also
the pitch hitter. Yeah.
The pinch hit, one of your most, other than most here, and you sub. I'll tell you what but I hope I'm wrong. I hope. You have any thoughts on the pinch hitter?
Not really, I guess. I think for me, it's more. I think the pitching is probably where I point to the most, just because that's really Bama's bread and butter this year, or it was at least. It's I think the hitting kind of is what it is, from a sense of, like, I think Murph has kind of found success in this late season run of, like, shifting the lineup to kind of maybe making some unconventional decisions in the lineup to try to generate some offense. But the pitching has pretty much been kind of, the Caleb Beaver show. And then obviously Brisky's kind of had some moments herself in her freshman year. And Bama had to win in a very specific way. And pitching was at the top of the list of things that had to be nearly perfect for them to do so. And that was something that kind of turned, no pun intended, kind of turned the tide of the game. So that's kind of where I'm, like, looking at in terms of a decision that kind of shifted the momentum and ultimately led to their loss yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I recognize I'm criticizing that made it to the top six. Hard to criticize team top six. So I say that's part of the ability of the world. I don't believe in questions when it comes. And like I said, those were questions that I had out twice, but you kind of go with the odds. I think instead of bringing in, they had not played since of the tournament. Whatever. She had not played no. But kudos to Alabama softball. Who would that we even be talking about ball at this point? See, have to be hating life right now. Florida got demolished by Texas, right? And now they play Oklahoma. Just let that sink in. If they get run ruled by Oklahoma, that tells you what's can you think of any scenario in the sports world where you type of inject an already dominant sport, Kennington?
Not really. I think that's like the thing when people talk about SEC expansion. Obviously, football is the headliner, but you think about what they're adding in some of the other sports. Softball immediately came to mind as you think the SEC was hard before. I mean, it's going to be unbelievable now. And you look at the super regional field, what it was like. Now the World Series field, what it was like. The SEC is kind of dominating the sport right now. So the SEC is already a gauntlet. It's only going to get tougher. And then in baseball too, I know Texas had a disappointing end to their season in baseball, but their baseball team was ranked really high, and they're coming into SEC baseball as well. So it's going to be a challenge on that front as well, welcoming them to the conference.
Last week, Kennington, that it would be like Alabama joining Alabama and Georgia SEC in football. Or so when it comes to who is playing for I don't even know what you see. When you look at it, and they won 7. If they win this one, it'd be 7 on the last 7. The second 3-peat, only peats, and looking for a 4th one. But they'll have to go to the number 1 Texas Longhorns, who will be a SEC school this time next year on both parts. So kind of have mixed emotions as far as pulling for the SEC this year. But when we come on the other side, on a couple other things, we'll get your thoughts on meeting coming out. And then what's up for Alabama softball? I know you've written some on, base football, NIL world in front. We'll talk about that more on your home for Alabama Sports Talk 100.9 AM.
If you're looking for the most epic place on earth, let's start at the base of a massive waterfall. Then trek through the thick jungle. Then climb to the peak of a snowy mountaintop. Then once you get there, keep going. Because with intelligent 4x4 and 7 drive modes and a Nissan Pathfinder, the search is the real adventure.
Available feature. Intelligent 4x4 cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions.
Under the biggest cactus in town, Taco Casa. Quality is number one. You got to start with a good quality product, but it's got to be at a good value to the customers.
Everything is about quality.
You just can't beat the quality, taste, and value.
And it's because we take pride in providing you with the best.
Good customer service and good food, good quality.
We want to make sure that we give that to them each and every time they come and visit us.
The sense of pride that we have in the quality, the consistency of our food carries over to everything we do in the stores. That's Taco Casa.
Why do so many dogs suffer from weight issues, skin problems, messy poops, and low energy? It could be the popular dog food you put in their bowl each day.
Cody was sleeping a lot, wasn't playing.
She was very lethargic and not moving around. Dry kibble just wasn't cutting it.
That's why, after more than 45 years of experience of helping dogs make complete health turnarounds, veterinarian Dr. Marty created Nature's Blend. It's a freeze-dried raw dog food made with wholesome ingredients like premium meats, seeds, vegetables, and fruit. And once dog parents switch their pups to Nature's Blend, the results can be astounding.
She's got her energy back. She's running around like she did like 5 years ago.
Miraculously, she's just feeling all around better. She's like a new dog. Thank you, Dr. Marty.
Get your dog started today and save up to 54% off Nature's Blend. Plus, receive a free pack of our best-selling beef liver dog treats. Go to drmartypets.com/deal or text DEAL to 511-511. Text DEAL to 511-511. All dogs are unique. Your dog's results can and will vary. Message and data rates may apply.
This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Welcome back to the Martin Houston Show, the sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team, on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back. Houston Xavier. We have been at the third in on the conversation. Want to remind you to check out Taco Casa. Taco Casa, quality, taste, and value under the biggest cactus town. 6 locations in Tuscaloosa, West Alabama, 1 up in Birmingham off of Lakeshore Drive to better serve you. If you're looking for quality, taste, and value, you're not going to find a better deal than Taco Casa. And it is time for you to check them out for lunch and or dinner. That's Taco Casa, tacocasa.com. All right, let's keep the conversation rolling. You're in with Martin and Xavier and Kennington Smith, third of the app. Kennington, tell them what you got coming up, man, and where they can find you.
Yeah, on Twitter/X at skinnykenny_theathletic.com or the athletic on your mobile apps, searching anything related to Alabama athletics. Last week, we kind of leaned into continuing to doing some film studies. I did a pretty in-depth piece on the 8 summer high school enrollees, did a film study on what each of those guys bring to the table, doing the same thing this week with the spring portal edition. So kind of breaking down the tape on Caden Proctor and Geno Vandermark and Cam Howard, King Mack, guys that were added in the spring portal window and kind of what their short-term and long-term projections are to the program.
All right, let's talk a little bit about that. The 8 enrollees for the summer, concluding Alabama's high school class. I think, is there anybody left to be added that hasn't joined yet?
No, I think everybody is in the fold.
All right. Well, of course, one guy stands above everybody else in terms of Ryan Williams. One of my stat lines or questions last week, Kennington, was, will Jalen Milroe and Jeremy Bernard, after this season, be considered one of the top duos in Alabama history in terms of quarterback or receiver combo? What's your thoughts on that real quick before we get into these guys?
Yeah, well, I would have to probably go back and look at who played with who. There's probably you think of maybe Tua, Devontae Smith, people who have had multiple years together. I think it might be hard for Milroe and Bernard to climb up top of a list with only 1 year. Maybe there have been some other prolific 1-year combinations that I'm just not thinking of, but
most of them, ironically, most of them are 1 year. Most of the Tua guys, yeah. I mean, that's what's interesting is most of them. X, are there any guys that had multiple years? Where the number one guy was the number one guy for multiple years with the same quarterback? I'm trying to think because Devontae
probably
Judy may be the closest guy.
Coop and AJ.
Yeah, Coop and AJ. but the offenses weren't as prolific back then.
No.
So that hurts that.
Coop and AJ would have been the number one guy with the same quarterback. Greg and Julio would have been the quarterback wide receiver with multiple years.
And maybe was Judy multiple years? I know, or was it Jalen and Ridley?
Well, I would have said Ardarius Stewart might have been Jalen's number one guy his freshman year, but 18 and 19 was technical. Jerry had back-to-back 1,000 years seasons those 2 years, but I think Devontae had more yards than him when they were juniors.
Yeah, and Devontae is the interesting one. If you go back and study Devontae at Kennington, you're gonna see Devontae was like the third, fourth guy every. Matt was always the guy, like one or two single game demand, and it's like, how's this guy not the go-to guy? And then when he got to be the go-to guy, of course, it was like crazy. But since you can't pick the duo, what do you think the stat line is going to be for those guys this year potentially?
Yeah, I think Jalen, I'm probably looking for 3,500 plus yards passing. He was probably around 2,800 last year. So I would say probably 3,500 passing. I think Jeremy Bernard is probably somewhere in the maybe like 1,200 yard range. Maybe that's really prolific. I don't know what's the baseline of what Bama receivers have done in the past. So maybe like 1,200 to 1,500 yards for Jeremy Bernard. He just seems like he is clearing ahead, the leader of the pack in the receiver room. I think the baseline knowledge of the system is really going to help him kind of get a leg up on production early on in the season. You saw in Ada, they have a really strong rapport already for someone who hasn't been there for very long. So I do see him kind of emerging and being a breakout star candidate this year.
Yeah, and the way I look at it is a couple things. I tell people, I said, let me tell you why I think they have the chance. I'm not saying they will be, but the reason they have a chance is I say Burrows and Daniels, fifth-year guys who got to run the same system back-to-back seasons. They were fourth round, fifth round draft picks coming into their senior years. And then being grad students, they were able to, I call them NFL quarterbacks because all they did was watch film, learn it, and grow it. And then you have a guy like Bernard who's going into his third year in the system. So I think those guys, absolutely have the potential because of it being a offensive-based coaching staff. I think that the passing yards could go up over 1,000 yards this year over what he did last year. I think he could potentially get to 3,800 to over 4,000 yards, especially if Alabama makes a run and gets those extra games. And that's, of course, all my numbers are based on them making a run to the Final Four in terms of the college football world. Any thoughts on the touchdown? And then the other follow-up question to that is, back to your early enrollee list, does Ryan Williams potentially help that stat line or hurt that stat line in terms of Jeremy Bernard?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to have too much of an impact on Jeremy Bernard's stat line unless unless Ryan Williams just emerges as like a super freshman phenom. I think what I kind of illustrated in the story is Ryan Williams is a game breaker in just about every sense of the word. So it's not, for me, I'm not looking at Ryan Williams from a sense of how quickly can he learn the entire playbook and get onto the field. It's more so of how, in what creative ways can DeBoer and Sheridan get him the ball? Can it be a package of plays? Are they going to put him at kick punt returner just to put the ball in his hands, let him get used to speed of the game on special teams? Like, in what ways are they going to kind of assimilate him into the offense? And then from there, I think we'll be able to see if his role is going to increase from there. I think Jeremy Bernard is going to be a mainstay regardless. So I don't think that it's going to have too much effect on his overall production. I think Jordan Bernard could be a 10 touchdown plus guy this year. Just the way that he's going to be counted on to be almost an every snap guy at receiver, and the rapport that he has with Milroe, I just think that he's going to be in a position for a really strong year this year.
Yeah, and if Ryan Williams does what I think he'll do, I think he actually may have a positive effect on Bernard instead of a negative. I think Ryan Williams, I was talking about the other day about J-Mo and his impact. I think Ryan Williams is going to do something. I don't know that Alabama has a guy right now that takes the top off, that makes you have to play, deeper than normal and create more space between, the safety and the defensive line. I think Williams may create more spacing than any of the other receivers would do, especially with the way you said, them putting him in packages early on till he gets accustomed. Your thoughts?
What type of impact do y'all think Ryan has coming in during the summer with a semi-set starting core right now, and then you look at the guys that were here in the spring, Caleb Odom and other guys?
I think for like what I'm looking for Ryan is how is he going? What's his body going to look like going into fall camp? How much weight is he going to add? How's his body composition going to change? Kind of what's his playing weight going to be at? That's more so what I'm looking at in terms of his summer. I think receiver is an interesting position because, in my opinion, it really doesn't too much matter what a starting lineup is. It's more about who's getting the most snaps and who's kind of getting the targets. Like I think about a Malik Benson last year, who was technically a starter but wasn't really an impactful receiver from a numbers production standpoint. So if Ryan Williams can just get himself into the rotation of the 5-6 guys that they're probably going to play consistently, then he's going to be in a pretty good position. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. Can he transform his body, and then can he just kind of get into that top 5-6 range? I think Bernard, Prentice, Law solidify top 3, and then after that, I feel like those next 4 through 6 spots are pretty much up for grabs for anybody who steps up.
Yeah, and for me, X, to answer your question, it's interesting how your perception, not just you, just everybody's perception is of a guy coming in at this point being behind. When I was coming, we came in 4 weeks before the season started. 99% of the freshmen, that's when they came in. The ones who came in earlier than that may have got one summer. And we had freshmen who would come in like a David Palmer. David Palmer, when he stepped foot on campus, he was in the rotation. And I think Ryan Williams is that type of guy. I think the kids coming out of high school now are in better shape. They're more equipped. They have better nutrition, conditioning, etc. So I don't think that the timing hurts. I just think that because you have all summer, and his summer is more time than we had. Remember 7-on-7. That's the new thing. So I think he'll get more work than the receivers who would get work even coming through spring practice would have coming in before the season. If you go back a few years, and I think the kid, all I can tell you is he went from a junior being Mr. Alabama to graduating. And then when he went to the spring game, the All-Star game, he was still the best player on the field. So I think that will continue. Kenan, your closing thoughts, and then we'll get to break and come back on the other side.
I think the last thing I want to add on to this is that I think it's important to note that Ryan Williams spent a lot of time in Tuscaloosa this spring, like a lot of time, at practices and those things. So I think he's gotten a little bit of a leg up just in terms of learning things, observing things, just because he spent a lot of time around the team during spring practice. So I think, obviously transferring into college football a year early is going to be an adjustment. but it looks like he's taking the necessary steps to put himself in a position to be an impact player pretty early.
X, closing thoughts before we let you go for the day, man.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to these guys, I think y'all are correct. I think Ryan probably makes his immediate impact in the special teams and then works his way into the rotation. That's just kind of how I see it playing out. You know, you brought up David Palmer, and that's a similar way that he made his first impact, returning kicks and then working his way really into the wide receiver mix, especially with the talented guys that we do have around.
Yeah, and I would close with the thoughts of Pete Golding said this a couple years ago. Kennington Smith III, who's with us, just said it, but I'm going to put a term behind it. I think they create depth with Ryan Williams. In other words, they're going to find to get him on the field early, they're going to find a group of plays that he can run, and he can run them at the same level as the other guys can run the playbook, and then they'll add to it. I think they create depth with Ryan Williams to have him as a part of this, not just because he is good, but because of the portal. We'll talk about these other guys and what Kennington had to say about them on the other side. Who's the next man up outside of Ryan Williams in this year's class of enrollees? We'll be back on the other side to keep the conversation rolling.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. And if you're traveling on northbound I-359, heading from I-20 up towards Stillman, it's a 1-minute delay. South on Highway 69 from Mitlary Road to 15th Street, a 1-minute delay. McWright's Ferry Road is being extended down to Rice Mine Road. Lane closures are in place in preparation for work on the new 69 flyover bridge. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Lisa Baque.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Monday morning. There was yet another fatal shooting over the weekend. It happened at the Shell station at 1300 Crescent Ridge Road Northeast late Saturday night. 2 women were shot. 46-year-old LaShonda Lee Street died. Witnesses told reporters that 2 women got into a fight outside the gas station. Law enforcement arrested 43-year-old Rosanna Latrice Wilson on the murder of Street. Wilson's wounds were not life-threatening. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
Townsend Nissan is your #1 dealer, and they'll beat any written offer or pay you $1,000. Keeping you #1 keeps Townsend Nissan #1. See dealer for details.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
Hi, this is Quentin.
And this is Brianna.
A little thing we love about Chick-fil-A chicken strips are how satisfying they are. The chicken strips are amazing. They're always filling, tender and juicy. Definitely one of my favorite things on the menu.
My favorite thing is the last bite. The last bite is nice and juicy, and it's wrapped up in some crispy breading that keeps it nice and tasty. And being able to scoop up my Chick-fil-A sauce with it, it's just like the best part of the meal. It's an undefeated combo.
Order the chicken strips on the Chick-fil-A app today. Real customers paid for their testimonials.
Why do so many dogs suffer from weight issues, skin problems, and low energy? It could be the popular dog food you put in their bowl each day. Veterinarian Dr. Marty created Nature's Blend, made with wholesome ingredients like premium meats, seeds, vegetables, and fruit. Save up to 54% off Nature's Blend, plus receive a free pack of our best-selling beef liver dog treats. Go to drmartypets.com/deal or text DEAL to 511-511. Text DEAL to 511-511. All dogs are unique. Your dog's results can and will vary. Message and data rates may apply.
Weather brought to you by Tidwell Chiropractic, the only third-generation chiropractor with over 26 years experience in Tuscaloosa. Call Tidwell Chiropractic at 752-2503.
It's time for the Martin Houston Show. With the same hard-hitting, no-nonsense approach in which he played the game, Martin will take you inside the locker room, down on the field, and across the goal line with his in-depth analysis.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. We have Kennington Smith III closing out the fourth quarter. It's now time for the Harvest Church 2-minute warning. Visit Harvest Church on Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Word and worship Also want to invite you to come this Wednesday to the venue located on Watermelon Road. The venue will be doing outdoor worship. The summer series kicks off there with live worship and ministry. We'll be kicking it off this Wednesday at 6:30. All other nights will be at 6 o'clock. But looking at time, so come out and join us for worship experience. Harvest Church leading the way at the venue this Wednesday. It's our encounter service. We're taking it on the road to the venue. Thanks for joining us there. All right, Kennington, Ryan Williams, obviously the class of this class in a lot of ways. You talked about 8 other guys: Noah Carter, edge rusher, Kevin Riley, running back, Amari Jefferson and Rico Scott, wide receivers, Steve Mbama, and Jay Lindsey, tight end. Steve is the defensive lineman, and then Quentin Reese, linebacker, the last official recruit, I think, from the Saban era that signed in this class. So who else should we look for out of this group potentially to make an impact this year?
Yeah, I really like Amari Jefferson. He's just somebody who is probably underrated just because he was such a highly rated baseball prospect and really has kind of just started to focus solely on football recently. But somebody who's just an excellent athlete. I think he probably has the most college-ready frame. If you look at him, Rico Scott, Ryan Williams, he's, a little bit over 6 feet, already 200-plus pounds, excellent releases off the line, really good speed, knows how to track the ball. Again, being a baseball player playing in the outfield, there's a few plays on tape where he knows how to locate the ball, get under it for big plays. So I think he could potentially be an X factor and somebody who might potentially fill some type of rotational role if he can kind of come in and really learn the offense. So if I'm picking anybody else short term, I'm probably going with him.
Did you see? Do you remember Prentice freshman year?
Yeah.
Yeah, and where they had all of these names, and he was the one dude that was like, oh, who is it? He was a late signee. Everybody thought he was going to Maryland, and he decommits, and everybody like, oh, he just decommitted from Maryland, and he comes in, and he's the guy that's most ready to play. And that's the stuff, the part that people don't get, man. There's so much that happens from the end of the high school football season till here. You just don't know how much work guys put in. And sometimes guys do and some guys don't. It's good to hear that Williams has, and from what you're saying, Jefferson was that dude. Anybody else that you want to highlight from this class?
Yeah, I think Steve and Bama, I think long-term play, probably somebody who might end up being like, we look back on this as like a steal or a diamond in the rough of this class. His athleticism is on another level. I put a clip in my story where he is on kickoff team and he's the first person down making a tackle on a kickoff. I mean, how many defensive line prospects do you know walking kick returners down? That's the level of athlete coming into this program. He's from Canada. It's going to be a shift into American football. The competition level is obviously going to ratchet up, but the athletic traits are there, and Freddie Roach is, a coach that you have confidence in that he's going to be able to bring that out. So obviously, Bama's defensive line is really deep this year. He's probably not going to play a role, but long term, if they can hone that athleticism into, traits on the football field, he's going to be a steal, I think.
Yeah, and no doubt, man. Love to see guys like that. I love the mix of this class. I think you got some guys that's going to be willing to pay the price. Some 5 stars that's going to jump out there pretty quick. Some 4 stars that has some potential allegiance to Alabama. And then, of course, lastly, you got those 3-star guys who expect to come in and develop. Maybe some NIL transfer portal negotiations by who you sign up front by this staff and Saban in terms of how he was recruiting. Real quick, I have to get your thoughts on the basketball, man. Alabama basketball right now, according to several betting books now, has a higher chance of odds of winning a national championship in basketball versus football. What are your thoughts in terms of this team and now that they have Sears and Stevenson back in the fold with this basketball program?
Yeah, I think my initial takeaway is now national championship talks can officially commence, and that's like you can lean fully into it. With
they are
Stevenson coming back. Yeah, I think it's warranted. I mean, this is a roster on paper that's better than last year's roster, and I think another main takeaway that I have is within the context of college basketball, this is an ongoing conversation. How do you build a roster in the new era? How do you build a roster that can compete for a championship in today's college world? And Bama has one of the most compelling cases to do so. Returning starters, elite portal class, elite guys out of high school. They kind of have a little bit of everything, and it's going to be a really exciting year.
You pointed out, Kennington, he has – I went through the roster makeup. He has like 4 really, really high freshmen. Then he has a couple sophomores that's going to be playing big minutes. And then he has like 4 or 5 4th and 5th year seniors with starting experience either here and or at their respective schools that they transferred from. Great mix, and so Alabama's going all in on embracing the conversation. Which one has the higher expectation, Alabama football fans or Alabama basketball fans?
Alabama basketball for sure. I mean, this was that's what it sounds crazy, but it's true. I mean, perfect offseason basically coming in with all of this hype. It feels like this is a moment for Alabama basketball to capitalize on something. You think football, their window is probably open for a lot longer. Basketball, it kind of feels like right now going all in on this championship run. So I think just for this upcoming year, more pressures on basketball.
Yeah, wow. Hey, Kennington, you had mentioned what you got coming up in terms of the window, the spring transfers. Tell them when you're going to have that out and what you're kind of hitting there.
Yeah, probably, sometime midweek, maybe as early as tomorrow or Wednesday. We're just going to continue to just break down the tape. There's probably going to be 20-plus plays of everybody that I'm breaking down from the spring window, kind of getting into advanced analytics and what I see on tape and projections. So if you're a football junkie and a ball watcher and a ball knower, you're really going to enjoy this piece.
Yes or no, did Alabama, even though it was a late transfer, not necessarily a starter, consistent starter, did Alabama potentially get a starter and somebody who can compete even if he doesn't start in their offensive line transfer from Michigan State?
Yeah, I think he's somebody who's probably right now going to be like a swing guy on the interior. I think probably coming in going to be the backup center immediately, and then can mix around to a few different positions. I think if you're looking for starter potential, that's probably going to be next year somewhere on that interior. But somebody who has a lot of experience that I think is probably going to play a 6-man type role this upcoming year.
All right. Hey, that's Kennington Smith III. I'm Martin Houston. Xavier Houston was with us. Justin Jones. Remember this: trust in the Lord, always lean not your own understanding, and all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. Roll Tide. We'll be back tomorrow for more of the same.
Thank you for listening to the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming